It's Monday, May 2nd, 2011. I'm Kevin McShann, and this is the McShann Sports Beat Report.
With the 13th pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Nick Fairley, defensive tackle, Auburn.
Who's going to run against that? They've got to stop Adrian Peterson, I guess. That big boy right there is a beast, man. That boy, he has a high motor, and he will hurt you. He will hurt you.
He looks thrilled. He looks he's like, maybe it's cold in Detroit.
You guys play the dome, don't you?
Well, it got a lot warmer in the center of that defensive line that already had one of the top draft picks of the last 10 years. We can even say that already after just 1 year of seeing Ndamukong Suh. There is Nick Fairley, who was a beast in the national championship game, and now he's going to be playing alongside a bona fide one in the NFL.
All right, as we talked about yesterday, our first round pick, this guy is an outstanding football player, really going to help our defense. We see a really explosive front with this guy, Ndamukong Suh, Samuel Lee Hill, Corey Williams, and really building our defense up front. So our first round pick is Nick.
Can everybody hear okay? Just a couple things. You guys know I sort of like a couple stories here and there. It gives you a little background on Nick. First, if we had seen what he was wearing yesterday with those glasses, we might have passed on him at 13. I got more texts yesterday after we picked him that said, "Why did you pick that big guy that looks like Urkel?" Well, none of those people were here, and I think if they were here, none of them would say the same thing. And I know no quarterbacks said that last year. You know, we talked about a lot of different scenarios that Nick fell to us in the draft, and it wasn't because of his talent. It wasn't because of anything other than the need for quarterbacks early in the draft. And we were talking in the draft room when we said, "Geez, how does a guy?" This is when we were doing our mocks. Hey, how does a guy fall to us like that? And we all said, well, don't worry, don't wonder why. Just go ahead and pick him and say, thank you, Jesus, and move on. And that's what we did with him. And then one other thing, we were interviewing a player from another Southeast Conference team, and we were talking a little bit about him and talking about a game that they played against Auburn. And we were asking him sort of how the game went, some things, and we started talking about Nick. Nick was actually here the same day that that player was, and he said they were back in the huddle, and they were talking in the huddle, and they'd say, like, the guys are like, "Hey, you gotta stop that guy. Hey, you gotta stop that guy. Hey," and they're trying everything. They're scheme-wise, they're, trying to double him. They're doing all these things, and they're in the huddle, and, the player is telling his guys up front, "Hey, look, you guys, we got to get that guy blocked." And the offensive lineman told him, "Look, there's nothing we can do about it. That's the way it's going to be. We're trying our very best, and that's the way it's going to be." And that's what we saw on tape. That's what we saw in other players that we like on our defense, and that's the reason that we drafted Nick Fairley. And I think that he fits very well in our scheme. I think that his personality will fit very well in our defensive line room. Defensive line is a position that is an impact position on our team. They're close to the quarterback. You know, we saw somebody in our division take a quarterback yesterday. We have another two teams in our division with very good quarterbacks, and I think we made their day a little bit worse yesterday when we drafted Nick.
Conviction is worthless unless it's converted into tangible action and conduct. And for Detroit Lions general manager Martin Mayhew, the 2011 NFL Draft was all about ignoring the opinion of outside pundits and staying true to a core draft philosophy. Take the best player available, regardless of position, and worry about need later. And on Thursday, Mayhew shocked the NFL world when he selected Auburn defensive tackle Nick Fairley with the 13th overall pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, giving the Lions potentially one of the most dominant defensive fronts in the league. Fairley arrives in Detroit after having an impressive junior season for the BCS national champion Auburn Tigers. He becomes only the second player in school history to win the Rotary Lombardi Award, which is awarded to college football's top interior lineman or linebacker. He joins his position coach, Tracy Rucker, as the only other player to win the award. Rucker took home the honor in 1988. Fairley also set two other single-season school records in 2010. He achieved the top mark for tackles for loss in a single season with 24 against the South Carolina Gamecocks in the Southeastern Conference Championship game, and then in the BCS title game against the Oregon Ducks. He also reached the school's top mark for sacks in a single season with 11.5. He was also named Defensive Player of the Game for his effort against the Ducks. Fairley will join a defensive line that had a total of 44 sacks a year ago, and he will also play alongside the Defensive Rookie of the Year and Ndamukong Suh, who had 10.5 sacks himself. The Lions' 2011 first-round pick met with the media on Friday after he learned he was drafted by the Honolulu Blue and Silver and discussed his initial reaction after he learned he was drafted by Detroit, and he also took some time to clear up any misconceptions regarding his work ethic, and he says he's ready to roll up his sleeves and get to work and become a valuable contributor along Detroit's opposing defensive front.
Without further ado, Nick Fairley.
Back in the hotel room. Yeah.
They're not a description, right?
No, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
What's your first impression?
First impression, great city, pretty. I was flying in, I was looking out the window. Got some nice stuff around. Can't wait to go experience it, get to look at it.
What's it like meeting Willie?
Really? Oh man, it's great. Will's a great guy, man. I can't wait to see much of him.
What did you know about the Lions before?
Really, just I know. Last year I was watching. They're known for their defense. Defensive line was making a lot of plays, and so really that's what I got to know about it. But I don't know too much now. I'm finna do my research and get to know it.
Why don't you get a day later? Why do you think you slipped to 13 when people are talking about you number one?
No idea, but I'm glad to be here. Glad to be a part of Detroit Lions, and I'm ready to get to work.
You know, a lot of times with your first round picks, there are positions of need. You know, Suh came in last year, he's kind of a savior, really bolstered that. You're going to share the load with two other guys. How do you feel about that? As opposed to coming in being the savior to start, being part of it.
I have no problem with it, like you said, I'm coming in to try to earn everything I can get, so for me to, like you said, share the load, it's no problem.
What's it going to be like? What's it going to be like playing next to guys like Kyle Benenbosch and Ndamukong Suh? Do you look forward to that?
Oh yeah, I up for it. Don't forget Corey too. Yeah, I look forward to it, man. I know those guys are a great group of guys. I can't wait to meet all of them, and especially all the defensive linemen. To be part of that group. Don't say nothing about it. I just let it soak in and use it as motivation when I get out there on Sundays. I think I'm a very hard worker. Come from a good background. My parents, my mom made sure we always had something to do. My job was to clean the yard every Saturday. So for that to come out, it's no problem with me. Really, I'm happy to change my trip. Yeah, I know. What was going through my mind, man? I was just happy my dreams come true, and I'm glad to be a part of Detroit Lions. It's my number one pick.
Scott Anderson, co-host of Carson Anderson on 97.1 The Ticket, provides his initial reaction to the drafting of Nick Fairley.
Hey, it's Gator from the Carson Anderson Show. Heard weekdays 10 to 2 on 97.1 The Ticket. Well, the Lions' first-round pick is in the books, and what a shock it was. Yes, the Lions selected Nick Fairley with the 13th selection of the 2011 NFL Draft. Love the pick right now. However, if I go back just 24 hours ago, hours before the draft, I'd come up with my own mock draft, and I mentioned that if the Redskins took Nick Fairley at 10, it would just follow in a long line of mistakes that the Redskins have made. I bought into the hype yesterday of all the negativity around Nick Fairley, the one and done year that he had at Auburn, and all the other red flags about him, whether he works hard or not. I made a mistake. Just hours after that, perhaps an hour and a half before the draft, I was watching plenty of the draft coverage, and I noticed this highlight reel of Nick Fairley, and boy was I wildly impressed all over again. And then it dawned on me, the hell was I thinking? We did a show right after the national championship game, and we mentioned to each other, hey, what one player would you like from the national championship game? And I said at the time, Nick Fairley. Why I would stray from that, I don't know. Again, dumbfounded that the Lions had that opportunity, and when he was finally selected by the Lions, it took 5 minutes before I was able to pick my jaw off the floor and express my true elation over the pick. Nick Fairley should be a stud, whether it was next to Ndamukong Suh or if it's next to anybody else in the NFL. This guy is going to be great up the middle. He's very versatile. He can play inside or outside because he's got that speed and that ability to get after the passer. Let him get after the passer early and often. What it does is allow the Lions multiple opportunities and multiple different formations they can go with these players. You can mix and match whatever you want to do. You got a nice rotation. You're going to keep guys fresh because keep this in mind too. Corey Williams and Samuel Hill, they play defensive tackle along with Ndamukong Suh. So now you have 4 viable defensive tackles on this team. What a rotation that's going to be to really get after guys like Aaron Rodgers and Jay Cutler and help the Lions compete for the NFC North title.
They often tell us that strength lies in numbers, and for the Detroit Lions, the strength of their team lies up the middle along their defensive front. And while some fans may ask the question, why do you continue to add to a strength when you have so many other needs? The answer is simple. Jim Schwartz won for years with a dominant defensive line in Tennessee, and now, as the head man in the Motor City, he's attempting to duplicate that exact same philosophy. And the Lions feel with the drafting of Nick Fairley, they've accomplished that goal. There are questions surrounding Fairley's work ethic, maturity, and attitude. However, with Ndamukong Suh and veteran defensive leader Kyle Vanden Bosch expected to watch Fairley's every move, questions about him should be put to rest. With that in mind, the perception of the Lions is changing, and Suh and Vanden Bosch will make certain that Fairley toes the company line to ensure that their arrow continues to point in an upward direction. This pick has continued to receive rave reviews from those in the know, and it appears to all interested observers that Mayhew, Schwartz, and the rest of the Lions brass has Detroit headed in the right direction. Now, we'll all sit back and watch to see if the defensive line, and Fairley in particular, can help lead the Lions to heights they haven't been to in quite some time. Kevin McShann, McShann, Sports Beat, reports.